Hello, beautiful co-creators of the new paradigm. I'm Wieteke Koolhof and I'm here with Reuben Langdon. And we're still talking about hybrid children. If you haven't seen the first two videos, well, we just made 3 videos, this is the third. In the one before this one, we talked about hybrid children. And if you haven't seen that one yet, we will put the link below. And that was more about the beginning of phases of the hybridization project. And we just dove in real deep. And so it became a video on its own. And now we're going to talk a bit more on the more recent hybridization project, the way it looks like right now. Right, Reuben?
Yeah. So I guess the questions I wanted to ask is we talked about sort of this other dimensional reality and trying to bring back what was happening from that, and then creating fears and phobias. And
exactly.
And then during the pregnancy phase,
right?
So maybe if you could go into depth about that, maybe pick up where we left off as far as what you said you felt like you were underwater and these things were happening, but maybe explain to us what you felt and what actually was happening then.
Okay, so
in that reality.
These were childhood memories. So they did different tests on me then than later. So the hybridization project didn't really begin until I became like an adult woman in the sense that you're starting to become fertile. So my first experiences with that were also still pretty young, like I guess 14, 15, and then into my 20s. So I wasn't
14 and 15.
Yeah, I know.
Like that young.
Yeah, pretty young. But I wasn't underwater in those memories.
Okay, so the underwater memories were more as a child.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was, and do you know why? Do you know what was physically happening on the other side?
Yeah, now I understand a lot more about this. You're being kind of put in a bubble, you could say. And this is still a metaphor, because there's no way I can put words to the actual thing, because we just don't have the words for it. So, but the way it was translated to me now, it's like a bubble that keeps you, prevents you from being shut out of your own orbit, in a sense. I don't know how else to say it. You're
shut out of your own orbit.
Yeah, you have
physically.
You have a frequency pattern.
Yeah.
And when you're being lifted to this different frequency, there's a really big shift. So they put this like protection bubble around you.
Almost like how a UFO has its own space-time gravity, and it sort of cancels out the gravity around it.
In a sense, yes.
Okay.
And that may be experienced as water, but you can just breathe in.
Okay.
It's a safe space where you can be, and they can move in and out of it while they do medical or whatever kind of checkups they feel they need to do on you. So that's what I experienced as a child. And this was an entirely different memory from my experience of going to what I call astral school, where I was being taught super fun, beautiful, magical things about the universe. So you have to level that for yourself, and now I understand it better. So actually,
were you in the bubble when you went to the school?
No.
Oh no, you weren't in the bubble.
No, it was apparently only necessary for the medical checks, because they I don't want to use the word need, but they're working with your body. So yeah, I'm still I probably still can't completely pinpoint how that works. Because that's a mystery to me still, how that works. How can they work with the actual physical body, but you're in another dimension? How does that work? Because I also got to understand that they can work with the actual physical body without taking it. So you can stay in your bed, and they work with your 5th dimensional self, so in a sense with your energy body. But whatever is being done with that, and I want to insert that it's not being done to you, but you're you're working, you're cooperating.
It's an agreement.
It's an agreement.
Yeah.
That the effects of what's being done with the fifth dimensional body can seep through in the physical body in this density. So you could compare it to telling a person who is just woken up from a state of sedation, you call it, in a hospital. Yep. So maybe they just operated on you, and you wake up and they tell you, we did that and that and that to your body. Well, that's just information. You don't have to believe it.
Right.
The amazing thing is, it's the belief that makes it real, that actually happened. So this is a great comparison, because when you experience these things with your fifth dimensional self, you bring it back to Earth. And because you know subconsciously that and that happened, in a sense, or you chose to experience that, you bring it into the physical body, and voila, you're pregnant.
Interesting.
So that's one of the possibilities, but there's multiple ways, and you will manifest the way that suits your personal path of exploration and expansion. So
it could be uniquely different for each person, their abduction scenario, their case. Yeah. Some people might relate to what you're saying here, and some people might say, "Oh no, that's totally different. I had a totally different experience." Yeah, because they probably did, in essence.
And it is pretty liquid. You can have a completely physical memory and not have actually left your bed. So there's this. Oh, this is such a hard to grasp thing, and it's so personal.
Yeah. No, I understand. Did you physically in those times when you were having these experiences, did you physically have like a pregnant test? Did you test and you tested positive for pregnancy? Because I've spoken to many people who have been pregnant for up to 2 months, right? And then all of a sudden they're not pregnant anymore.
Yeah. So I've lived that up to 2 months, sometimes longer, but even series. One time I didn't have my period for 9 months in a row, but that wasn't one pregnancy. That was a series, and I only understood that later. Right. I never did a test because I either wasn't in a relationship at that moment, so it couldn't be that in my rational mind's point of view, or I was using another kind of anti-conception, I think you call it. Birth control, that's what you
birth control,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a different word in Europe. Birth control, I was on a type of birth control, so I was like, well, maybe I'm just off my rhythm for a while, and I don't know why. Right. But I was having actual pregnancy, how do you say, features? Symptoms, yeah. All the way up until even there's a pigmentation that can happen under your eyes. And you get a little darker circle under your eyes, and it's only for a little while, and it's because of a pregnancy hormone. And then it leaves again, and I even had that, and I was like, what's going on here? Real pregnancy symptoms with the nausea in the morning and all of that.
Interesting. All right.
So you can have all of that.
So with when these were happening, you said obviously during the childhood experiences there was some traumatic things. At what point did you start to understand that these were not negative experiences? Or I guess
Around
let's back up. Let's go into, you talked about in the childhood. Let's talk about being taken um, or being inseminated, I guess. I don't know what's the proper term, with the hybrid children. Like you said, at age even as early as 15, 16. What was your experiences? Do you remember being on ships? Do you remember your body being taken or anything like that?
from that age. So this is how I think there's so much love there, because they're not, or I haven't co-created with them the memories of that experience before a
Okay.
proper moment in time, at least in my soul's choice of how I was going to learn from that. So I
Okay.
don't memorize that. I know I was going somewhere. I know it freaked me out, but I just came back without the memory, but just the fear. So I woke
Okay.
up screaming. And I don't
Mm.
mean that in a negative sense. It just sounds
Right.
dramatic right now, but I just didn't know what was going on.
Right.
But um, I understand that the first, so DNA samples that were needed were taken also then already.
Hmm.
But yeah, this can be a
So,
mix.
right.
So it doesn't mean that women only carry. We also
Right.
donate.
Okay. I
So
see. I see.
yeah, everything
Right.
is both directions. It's so
Right.
much more layered and complicated than
Yeah.
than it seems in
So,
the beginning.
so you could be taken, but not necessarily inseminated per se. You
Yes,
could just simply
be a
taken
donor.
for a donor,
Yeah,
and then they would splice that with another woman's
yeah,
DNA, several
yeah,
different women's DNA as well as men. So
yeah.
it's not just one male, one female that comprises
No,
a hybrid child. They can
no.
have, as Bridget said, there's many fathers, many
Yeah.
mothers.
And
Um,
several extraterrestrial elements may be implemented as well. And
okay.
then there, on top of all of this, to make it even more confusing, they don't just use necessarily DNA, they also use blueprint information
Hmm.
from some people. So you can be an energetic father of a hybrid
Mm.
child without having ever donated actual
Any DNA,
physical
any
DNA. Yeah.
physical stuff. Okay,
But the
interesting.
child will still carry a part of your energy frequency.
Now, for the male and the female, it also wouldn't necessarily need the egg from the female or semen from the male. They could just couldn't they just take a hair sample or
Yeah.
a DNA, a skin sample or something?
Yeah, it's become much simpler. Although
Well,
we,
in that, but why couldn't they do that from the beginning? Did they?
they weren't that advanced yet. This is a technology that has grown tremendously. Like they have found, like, as I understand it, I actually had a
Mhm.
big download from the first hybrid race, the first of the five. And
Oh,
I
okay.
have face-to-face contact with them in a download where I was astral traveling and meeting them, and they were telling me, sharing with me
Wow.
how rough their beginning had been, and really rough.
Wow.
And I was impressed by that. So, and that was there to explain to me, so I could share more about this project as well with others, that it hasn't been easy on both sides in the beginning of this project. They were still fine-tuning everything. And
I see.
Some of them never made it, like they died right after they were born, or how you want to look at that. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it has grown a lot, and now it's much more easy. Oh yeah, and to answer your question, so yes, they could use just a blood sample or a little, like a hair or whatever, or saliva. So it's all much more easy right now, but you may remember it, there we go again, as if they took something from your ovaries or your semen, because that's your subconscious mind's way of leaving you with as much information as you need to later down the road follow the trail to what this was about. So you may have a memory of a sexual interaction, and it may not be that, but it will let you know at least, you know, there's this hybridization program, and maybe one day you will find that out, and you may connect the dots because this is your memory.
I see. Multifaceted, multi-layered, multidimensional. It's not this or that, really. It's sort
everything.
of all of the above. What about we talked earlier about I think in the first video about I spoke with an abductee who had Crohn's disease, and magically the next day he was healed.
Yeah.
In your experience, or have you talked with others who have had illnesses and they were corrected or temporarily corrected, or how does that? Okay.
Yes.
Was it just is it just a temporary thing? Because I think I remember you mentioned in one of our correspondences that there still is, again, this violation of free will, that if you are sick and they all of a sudden fix you, that's almost in a way on the other polarity, a little bit of infringement on the free will thing. So how does that work?
Well, again, I wouldn't use the word violation or infringement myself.
Right. Sure.
So I know these stories firsthand, and I've seen them with clients in my own practice as well, with the channeling work that I do with the team. So as I understand this now, they can assist you, and the ones assisting you are often a very direct and close version of yourself in one of those societies. First of all, you're helping yourself, so there's a lot less of violating energy to that, right?
Sure. Right.
Then again, it would only happen if it is in your highest good. So that means if you can learn something from it. But on the other hand, you may have learned the lesson of your dis-ease already, and you might just be ready to let it go, and they may come in to introduce themselves to you by the means of a healing.
Okay.
So that would be one way that you have actually on a soul level agreed with your other self to become more aware of your multidimensionality. And that's a beautiful way to introduce your other aspects into your life. Now, it's also possible.
And also probably just to be like bringing a gift when you go to meet somebody for the first time.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not gonna actually, I bring gifts, let me in your house.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And that can still, if you mentioned that the man with Crohn's disease was afraid, although he got healed. And that makes total sense to me as well, because these beings are of such a high frequency, it often brings up fear automatically, because so much light pushes out the dark.
has a different view of it now, actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay, great.
So he's over time he's he's sort of come to terms and realized that they were bringing gifts. But initially, even after the Crohn's disease, it was still terrifying for him.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that. But in such cases, it is allowed. Yeah.
Sure. Right. But again, it's not cut or dry. It's not, if you have a disease and you're taken, you're not healed.
Not necessarily. No.
They're not going to heal you every time.
And this is the thing that is probably also an important variety in this to mention. They're actually not allowed to how do you say that? Tamper with the disease and your process in it, if that's something that you're using to grow from. And very often fevers, for instance, can be a processing symbol that you're using because you're burning down the old and rising from the ashes in a new way. So a fever or a flu can be very beneficial in a sense for the physical release of things that you no longer need. And they're not going to touch that or interfere with that if you're using it in your creation of reality for your own inner growth.
Right.
Yeah.
How about the number of people on this planet, population-wise? What do you think the number over the years from the 50s? What's the percentage of population that's been affected by these? Has Arjun told you?
Yeah. So what I got, they don't really like numbers, but are lacking. It's not a matter of lacking. They give me images because I'm not the best in mathematics.
Okay.
So they showed me the circle, and it's about a third.
A third. Okay. Wow.
That has been involved in the hybridization program in one way or another, and he really underlined that if even just the energy frequency,
sample, or energy,
or just the energy. Of a person was needed to be a part of one of the hybrid children, then that even was counted in. So it's a big group, but
and why? And out of that group, why 1/3 and not all? Why not 50%? What is their determining factor to make the selection for?
Really good question. Yeah. So as I understand it, it has to do with this future timeline. Since it's the grays that reach back in time to do the altering and the DNA manipulation, 99% of the cases, these grays have traced down their own family lines. And it's about a third of the current population that made it into that future world, becoming eventually one of those grays.
Interesting. Okay.
As I understand it, but I might be wrong.
Okay.
And of course, there's more people and
It's a very good explanation. No, it makes sense.
Energetically, it's a better match to connect with your actual ancestors. For them to trace down that energetic line makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. So this is how I understand it.
So I guess, and this goes for full circle. So have you heard anything about, during the Anunnaki, we mentioned this in the last video too, how the Anunnaki making us, did they use DNA from the Zeta Reticuli? Did the Zeta Reticuli beings even exist? So, how do those dots connect? That's what I guess maybe that's a question for.
The way I understand this, that's not the case. There was no Zeta Reticuli involved in that first hybridization. That's a different composition.
Okay.
As I understand it. But
right.
I also understand, and this is, how super multifaceted everything gets. As soon as one timeline exists, they can move back in time and alter stuff. Because the Zetas, and this I do understand as well, they have traveled back in time before the 1950s and already did DNA alterations to prepare for the hybridization project.
Right.
So everything is so...
so interconnected.
Back and forth.
It's funny because you mentioned this. My mom was born in 1950.
Okay.
And I had, after my work with Bridget, and she sort of introduced to me my hybrid child. At the time, this was all very new to me, and in the work we did, we reconnected with that child, and as well as another one that I connected to.
Yeah, there were two.
Which wasn't even in Bridget's videos, and that was one that I connected to on my own later.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that.
Oh, you did? Yeah. Okay. So that's why I was like, yeah, you're the real deal, because you're introducing this girl who I had connected to in meditations in and that hasn't been filmed and videoed and put out there into the world. So I was like, yeah, there's no way she would know this without it being, real.
Right.
So after the interview with Bridget, I had a download, a connection with my hybrid child, asking all these questions. And he explained that to me, essentially, what we're talking about. He said, and it started showing me these windows, and he said, if you want to know more, all you have to do is focus on it. And I actually saw my mom being part of the program. I saw how they had to take her and inject her DNA in order, and then me too, having to be, and my DNA having to be manipulated in order to be able to host this next generation of children, that they had to go back as far as my mom.
Yeah.
And then she probably has her own hybrid children as well, but at least like there's this lineage thing going on, and then and probably even her mom, a certain percentage. So it's like she may be 1.0001% Zeta Reticuli, then I'm probably 0.03% Zeta Reticuli being. So then my DNA can then host the actual children that are on the ships now.
Yeah.
I just throw that in there, that
nice.
that I had that communication, that contact with, before even having this conversation. And there's other videos out there that sort of also support this idea that it goes back to the 50s. And this also, just to make the connection, Dolores Cannon and her work with starseeds, indigos, and she's regressed people, and during the distress signal call after the bomb was dropped, and the call was made, and throughout the galaxy for all of these different star beings to incarnate here. And I think this is somewhat connected. Nobody's really made that connection, but I feel timing wise, it's sort of all the same thing.
That's exactly what's happening, because there is a lot of extraterrestrial material involved in this sixth hybrid race that we already introduced and explained in the video before this one.
Sure.
That's the youngest, really, the ones that are gonna be the first to actually live with us on Earth. So, and to get back
The
to
Yael,
the, yeah.
well, just on that. So the Yael are the caretakers of this race, correct?
Mainly.
So, but they're not necessarily Yael beings. The sixth race. The sixth race is its own. It's its own mix.
Yeah. When I look at them, of course, I haven't heard anybody else say this, but when I see them in my mind, I would say the variety of them is again a step different from the Yael. So that makes them the first of the sixth race in my vocabulary. I don't know how else to put it, but maybe somebody else will call it differently.
The Yael, do they? I've seen a drawing of Arjun, and he sort of looks very Basharish, without not having much hair on his head or any hair on his head. Bashar says the females of the Sasani, they have hair, but do you see the Yael as mostly non-hair?
So
and then, go ahead.
Differences, as I understand this. And the funny thing is, when I speak to him with Arjun, I have been seeing him with hair most of the time. So this is very funny. And then I started painting him, and he turned out bald. So I was like,
okay,
what's going on here? And he says, well, he wanted to be painted this way, and he said to me, there is hair but there is no hair. And I'm like, what do you mean? How do you mean? So this is the funny thing, these translation gaps that we have. So apparently I've been visualizing him with more hair than he actually has so far. And I didn't know that until I started painting his portrait, because when you paint, every second of the process of painting, I'm like, is this correct? Like, I'm checking in with him, and he was like, yes, no, go to the left, go to the right. And it's really nice because we're really getting to know each other while this is happening.
Wow.
In the image part, fine-tuning that.
Yeah.
So what I understand now, there is hair growth. It's very thin. It looks like it's more when the sun would be in the back. Look, like it looks shiny. And that's kind of like how I've been envisioning him. But he says it really isn't that much, and he usually keeps it short. So I didn't know that. So it's very funny. Like, I'm like, okay. And of course, there's different time frames in his life where he has hair or where he doesn't. Like us, we change our hair. So
sure.
It's but it depends per male and per female, how much hair and what color. And there's colors that we don't have here as well. And the skin colorations are also different from us, but there are differences. So
do they have different races? Like, in the Yael species, human species, we have many races within our human species. They don't have different races? As
I understand it, they don't split it up like that. Like, they're not going to, you're from, your skin tonation is slightly darker, slightly lighter, so you need to be a different label.
Race.
They don't do that. No, so it's just Yael. Rainbow Yael.
But there is a number of different skin colors within the Yael.
Yeah, but it's more subtle. It's subtler than our differences. We are more extremely different.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And going back to the children now, in the sixth hybrid race, when you view them, do they have more hair? Do they have more features closer to us?
Yes.
And there's a distinct difference there between the Yael and between the sixth hybrid race.
Yeah, that's my personal observation. And I would love to hear more about this from also other channelers who work with the hybrid children, such as Bridget, herself, and I will definitely ask her to do more videos on this topic. But more hair, but also, and I don't know if that's symbolically or literally, I can see more underlined features of other ET races in them.
Okay, so the sixth hybrid race might not necessarily be just Zeta human. There might be other.
They aren't.
They aren't.
And
Okay, so let's go into this a little bit.
Even the Yael aren't. There is other. I mean, to
ET
begin,
races.
yeah.
Well, I mean, the human race is
We are a
you know,
hybrid race. Yeah.
right? We're Palladian,
Yeah.
reptilian. What else
Yeah.
are we? You know, there's a bunch of
So
things going on here.
this is the beautiful thing. In a sense, you're being forced to stop pinpointing because it becomes pretty much impossible at some point.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, but it's nice to know our roots, and I'm sure just like the children want to know their roots.
Yeah.
They're coming from these humans that were hybridized from the Anunnaki, that were hybridized from the blah blah blah. You know.
Yeah.
So that's just something I think a lot of people, you know, even me, haven't really heard that much of. So there's Zeta and other ET races, in addition to the ones that we already carry, but also other races that may be put into the DNA mix. Is that
Most
correct?
Definitely. That's very much what I understand. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So the Zetas reached out to the humans to create the programs, but they also maybe simultaneously were interacting with other third density races or other higher density, any density races really, to create the programs.
Oh, very much. I understand that. Actually, I'm not sure if I can say that they needed help, but they definitely received help from different beings in the entire project. Amongst others, demented beings are a very active part, and without dementids, this whole hybridization project, as I understand it, couldn't have even worked out at all.
Yeah, no, the mantis sort of showed me that when I had my visitation.
Okay.
They sort of raised their hands and said, "We're a key part of making this happen." Technologically, I think is sort of the way that it was given to me, was they needed. And I don't know if this is not in the way we perceive technology, but maybe like the energetics and these astral planes and these other things that they were able to access, that the Zetas and that their technological development could not access. So they had help from the mantis beings.
Yeah, I kind of see that the same. Like they're kind of holding the web, and they're the masters of the parts where all the lines cross connect. So when new crossings are being created, they love to help and assist to have that flow easy.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I got to see.
Yeah,
It's always nice to hear somebody else.
That was my one-time visit from being. They gave me a lot of information in a short amount of time.
Wow.
So I had to digest it. They gave me a lot of information about the Dracos as well, which was sort of the theme. Same thing, they're assisting them as well.
Oh, wow, cool.
So I guess we'll wrap it up here, but where the big question is, where are the kids now? And how are they going to appear to us? Are they going to come to us as grown-ups, or are they going to come to us as kids? I mean, obviously they're appearing to many people across the planet right now as kids. But by the time Earth density reality, fourth density consciousness, by the time we actually get there, it may be another, it may be 10 years, it may be 5 years, it may be 20 years. And at that time, then are we going to be interacting with our teenage / mid-20s kids? How does that all work?
Okay.
So first, where are they?
Yeah, that's two questions. If I forget the second one, then pull me back. So the first one, where are they? They, as I understand it, again, this is all my perception of what I got from my guides, is that the Yael are the main caretakers. They're not the only ones, but they're definitely the main. So they're with the Yael at their ships, their planets, and they stay over. They do like at the Pleiades, and they have like outings. They visit several other universes, planets, beings. They really explore the universe if they want to. They're getting this beautiful schooling, so they learn a lot. They're given the free choice to either want to actually be a part of our Earth frequency rising and aim for contact with their parents or not. They don't have to. So they're really being treated with a lot of respect. As I understand it, a good big part of them does want to be a part of this journey that we have signed up for together, in a sense. So they're introducing themselves to their parents right now, often in very subtle, energetic ways. They can come to you, like you said, in a meditation or in a dream.
Right.
But their frequency, nevertheless, is very high. It's still very extraterrestrial to us. So if you dream about one of your hybrid children, you may notice that you get this like jolt of energy that pushes you into a lucid dream. So it's going to be a different dream than just any other dream. Because just that ET frequency is very powerful and often wakes you up almost. Or in that half sleep, half waking state, you may actually see a glimpse of them, or when you open your eyes in your bedroom or after a nap. So again, this is on invitation. They know your inner heart's wish. So if you wish to expand in that direction, and it's your soul's knowing that will assist, then on that level, on that frequency, through your own higher mind, the children can communicate with you. So you can channel, which is basically having a phone call with your kids, and just ask them stuff, invite them in, do something playful. Make sure, in a sense, that you're on a playful, light-hearted frequency. Don't demand them in or insist something, because that's not a frequency that they resonate with at all. And just see what comes back. And in many cases, just like with extraterrestrial guides, or maybe even guides in general, synchronicity will be one of the languages they love to use. So they play. So they're all around, and they check in with their parents once in a while if they feel there's a probability that there may be co-creation in the future.
And when this co-creation probability does happen, fruition, then how, I mean, it may be, again, maybe our monkey mind's trying to figure this out, is that at the age they are now, and we're interacting with them now, like I'm interacting with my, 8-year-old son on a ship, 10 years from now, is he still going to be 8 years old?
Well,
how does that work?
As I understand this, they live so it's a different dimension right now. They're in a different dimension.
Because they're fourth.
Time is slippery there. So they skip time frames, which can go many directions. So now it's getting really weird. But some of them may stay the age you were introduced to them right now, and you will meet them that age. Some of them may grow older in the meantime. And the weirdest thing is, I understand it can even be the opposite direction. You may get to know one of the children. They introduce themselves as 14 because that's the age when they have to tell you something, and it's really important, and they have to tell you now. And then when you meet them, they're like 10.
So it's all over the place.
Because they know how to jump timelines.
Right. Because they're a higher density. So they're sort of waiting for us to reach that density where we're fourth density, somewhat fifth dimensional. Are they fifth dimensional?
Well, they're in an overlap thing, but they know how to travel between both. But nevertheless, it's still too dense here to be here right now.
Yeah.
And we have to move towards them, and they will have to sync their energy a little bit for us.
Too dense in certain parts of the planet. My gut says there are some parts of the planet now that are raising in the vibration where they could actually be here.
Correct. Well, for
Almost.
a while.
Almost.
It's still the overall energy is still too heavy.
Right.
Yeah. But there are parts where it's easier for them to communicate.
Right. And they could probably hang out for a little bit and then got a jet because it's too.
There is a,
Right.
and that's another thing that we spoke about shortly outside of this interview, that the pregnancies that are being physically experienced are often physically experienced because they're actually being carried in this body for a little while.
Right. To get the kids used to the density?
Exactly.
Okay. That makes sense.
And that can't take longer than that certain amount of time, and within between medical checkups and stuff, because then it would be too much. So that's why the pregnancy lasts so much shorter than a human pregnancy. It's not 9 months.
Right. So it would only just be a short time, and then they finish off the rest of their pregnancy on the ships.
No, actually, they're pretty much done then.
Oh, okay.
That's just like
they can speed up the time thing.
In a sense.
In a sense. Okay.
So you don't see the full pregnancy. You just have the effects in your body. Your belly doesn't get all that big, but it can either, like you said, be finished on the ships for a little longer if needed, or it's actually done and they just have a little, very, very small baby. So there's women, I know women who have memories of being shown their child after having the dream of the delivery, and it was as big as their hand. But the baby was done.
Healthy and fine?
Yeah.
Well, interesting.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, and they grow very quickly mature. So when you have a dream of a baby, I've had these dreams with some of my kiddies, and they would come to me as you would think 1-year-old or maybe a few months, standing up straight on their tiny little feet and talking the ears off your head, like telling me all kinds of super intelligent stuff. And I was just like, how come you know all this? You're 1-year-old. How is it even possible that you're talking at all?
Right.
But they're very, very much more mature than we are and develop much faster.
Sure. Yeah. Well, if you're exposed to those higher densities all the time, then I'm sure, it's like you create language. Everything is happening faster.
Yeah. So, wow.
Fascinating. Well, is there anything you wanted to add to that? I think I feel pretty complete with.
Yeah. Well, we covered
with
a lot.
all the conversation. Yeah.
I think this is a pretty in-depth
I'm
video.
sure there's more developments all the time, and we're always figuring out more things here.
Yeah.
But hopefully for the viewer, they can definitely get a better understanding of the hybrid children projects.
Yes. Or at least a little bit more. And of course, I would say to everyone, pick what resonates with you and leave the rest behind and do your own investigation, because this is based again on what I got from my guides, and that's one perception, and everybody's reception of information is individual. So just take what resonates with you, leave the rest, and keep on being open-minded for new points of view, because we all carry a piece of the puzzle, and I think it's only by sharing and being together that we can get that full picture eventually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you, Reuben.
Yeah. Thank you. Great conversation.
Yeah, that was really awesome.
Anytime.
So maybe we'll make more in the future. Let's see.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much. And everybody, thank you for watching. We'll put some fun links below on the topic, and so you know where to find us. Reuben makes really amazing documentaries with channelers on all kinds of extra-dimensional topics. So don't forget to check out his channel for sure. And I wish you an amazing day. Namaste.
Bye. Thank you. Namaste. Bye-bye.